G'day everyone, welcome back to another weekly tipping video on the channel. We're going to be going over my tips for round 18 of the 2025 AFL season. Feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you do go and enjoy today's video. Let's begin. Okay, so my tips from round 17. The previous round, I got myself an 8 out of 9. A pretty straightforward round for tipping. A lot of people got themselves a full score. As for me, I didn't, because I just didn't back in me Swannies. Went with the Dockers, that was my incorrect tip. And yeah, Sydney for the most of the day were the better team, but Fremantle, they could have snuck it late, to be honest, if they did kick a bit more straight. But going through the games, felt North would put up a bit of a fight, and it was a good start from them. But yeah, the Dogs sawed away, in the end winning by 49 points. I tipped them by 38. Collingwood over Carlton, the Giants over the Eagles, Gold Coast over Essendon. I had a deep feeling that the Dons could maybe pull out an upset, and it was looking like that halfway through the third, but a mature win from the Suns, the Cats over the Tigers, Brisbane over Port, Hawthorn over the Saints, Fremantle over Sydney, and the final game with the Crows over the D's. A quick look at my tipping competition leaderboard update. Just like the week before, a lot of people got themselves a full 9 out of 9 score, so can't go through every single name. But as for who is leading my competition, we finally have a sole leader. Tom Mack 89 with a total score of 135. Let's now start with the tips for round 18. Probably one of the rounds of the season, given that the top 9, apart from Brisbane, all play each other. So there's going to be a lot of 8-point games, no doubt. We start, though, Thursday night at Marvel Stadium, Carlton taking on the Brisbane Lions. Another week, another disappointing Carlton performance it was. Streamed the game on Friday night, and geez, they just look lost. Where's their plan? Where's the method? As I've said, when the stars just aren't playing well, and a few are injured, of course, of Walsh and Mackay, that their depth always gets tested quite a bit, and that's what's also really let them down, that next layer and below. So can the Blues have a big bounce back in response here against the Brisbane Lions, a side currently entrenched in the top 2? They've been challenged here or there, but I think the last few weeks are really now starting to turn the screws. 2 good wins in a row. Port did test them, and look, Port I think will be a thorn in some good team sides. They showed some effort, but Brisbane's just class, and their depth as well, especially in that midfield. They bat deep in there. Bailey had a superb game as well. It's pretty hard to go against Brisbane at the minute. Jack Silvani's absence was pretty evident last week. They got killed early, and 𝐓𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿 was just under the pump. And with him another week away, you could definitely see Carlton struggle defensively a bit again. Surely a response comes soon for Carlton, and look, they can start off games well. They started fairly well against Collingwood, but from a four-quarter perspective, I just don't think they can go to Brisbane's level. When looking at both teams, there's certainly a gulf and difference between the morale and just how they're playing in general, and their confidence especially. Yeah, Brisbane is starting to hum at the right time, I feel, so I'll go Brisbane in this game, and they should just be too good, and most areas of the ground will go Brisbane by 25 points. Friday night footy now, we do have the Suns taking on the Pies at People's First Stadium. What a test it is for Gold Coast. Can they push on and find a way to knock off these Pies? It's been weeks on weeks of picking up wins, and Collingwood just don't look like they're going to be dropping a game anytime soon. They're looking far too good defensively, and just their entries inside 50 are bloody great to watch. They're an exciting team, probably one of the more cohesive and well-connected teams in the competition, very efficient too. For Gold Coast, it was a really mature win last week against the Dons, really lifted in the second half, and got on top of the midfield battle, and their ball movement just absolutely trumped the Dons, and they're a very good team and locking in the forward half, and that's going to be a key area to try winning this game against Collingwood. Don't allow them time and space with ball in hand, and try and win that field territory against a side where, look, Collingwood can defend really well. They're one of the best defensive teams of the competition, but hey, if you get enough injuries, surely you'll find a way to kick a winning score. Home field advantage as well for the Suns. I think Freo are the only side that they have beaten the Suns in at home, so it's a pretty good fortress Gold Coast are building. Numbers wise, the Pies haven't been too amazing in the contested game, so could that be an area where Gold Coast really get on top of, not only locking in the forward half, again repeat entries, but just winning that midfield battle in general? But if you are a regular viewer of the tipping videos, you'll know that I always say it's just hard to go against the Pies. They're the best team of the competition at the minute. They have a fairly good record over Gold Coast as well. They might get challenged for a quarter here or there, or be trailing at half time, but they just always know when to dig in and get on top in the right stages of the game, and in crunch time especially. So the Pies, for me, I think they'll be a tad too good in open play and be a bit more efficient going inside 50 in comparison to the Suns. So I'll go Collingwood in this one, and they'll pick up the win here by 17 points. For the Saturday games, first one up, I think this one's the game of the round, to be honest. The Dogs taking on the Crows at Marvel Stadium. Really tough one to go with here, because I've been saying with the Dogs since Sam Darcy and Bontempelli have came back in since their win against the Saints. They're arguably 2 of the best players in the team, so I don't think you can go to conclusions and just say, they're crap against the top 8. Let's see how they go now, these these players in. It's a big test for the Dogs. One of the best teams with ball in hand this season, and they're just brilliant on how they're able to get the ball from inside congestion to outside to space with those quick hand passes. So could that outdo Adelaide in the trenches? As for Adelaide, as the season's wore on, they've just continued to really build well defensively, and the aerial beast with Josh Waugher back there. Mark Keane's improving every single week, it feels like. Dan Curtin on the wing showing his aerial presence, and we always know about those three key forwards Adelaide do possess. But yeah, it was a bit of a scrappy win against the D's last week. I thought their first half, what on earth happened? Their cohesion was really lacking. Just everything inside 50 was intercept mark, but they were able to fix things up and get the win in the end. They're building a really good balance in their game, Adelaide. They're looking like a very strong team as a back six, but also they can do the damage through transition especially and off the turnover. And yeah, it's sort of a tricky one to tip because both teams do have their weaknesses. The Dogs, there's questions on them defensively. Adelaide away from home as well. As well for Adelaide, looking at it on paper, probably a bit weaker in the midfield in comparison to the Dogs. It's at Marvel, it's at the playpen for the Dogs, arguably play their best brand here, so I could really see them get on top of Adelaide just through their slick ball movement. Just liking what they're doing defensively, the Crows, the last few weeks, and I think that will be enough to try and stop this Bulldogs attack and get them back the other way off the turnovers. So I'm going Adelaide in this one. Should be one of the games around. We'll go the Crows in a close one by 7. Next game, we've got the Giants taking on the Cats at 𝐸𝐴𝐺𝐸 Stadium. So the Giants need to win this game to keep themselves within that top 8 hunt. As for the Cats, they want to win this game to stay in touch of the top 4. Of course, the Giants got the win over the Cats last time out. It was just through how they're able to win the ball at ground level. They were just able to out-hunt the Cats in congestion and really move the ball forward quickly and just had so many winners at half forward as well. And that's a Giants at their best when their forward half plays really get going. They're tough to beat and they get speed on the ball movement. They can catch you out the back. So yeah, the Giants back at home. 𝐓𝐿𝐴𝐿 should return for this game off concussion. Callaghan's been in an unbelievable form the last 8 weeks, so you think maybe 𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐿𝐴𝐿 goes on to him. You expect Bailey Smith to return to this game. Bit of an enigma, the Giants, when you look at them as a whole. They've struggled against some lower-ranked teams, against some higher-ranked teams. They just haven't been good enough in the contests. And look, the Cats, always we regard Geelong as a side that can also show some weaknesses on the inside. So I think the midfield battle is going to be a pretty interesting one, but given both teams can show some really good ball movement, especially the Cats. They like to move it quick, and they're just very efficient going inside 50 as well. The Giants, though, they concede a lot of inside 50s, but usually they can absorb them well. They've got 3 wins in a row, the Giants. I still feel like they're papering over the cracks when watching them as a whole. Like, they've been able to win purely off efficiency, like against Brisbane, for example. And in the contest, they've still been a little bit suspect too, and I just think the better team on paper here, the Cats, will probably find a way to win this game. So I'll tip the Cats in this one. I think they'll outdo the Giants in the contest, and both teams can be pretty efficient, but I think the Cats, with how they're moving the ball as a whole, they are hard to go against. So I'll go Geelong in this one, and I'll tip them here by 14. Then for Saturday night, first game, we have the Tigers taking on the Dons at the MCG. Richmond coming off the back of another disappointing loss, and it's been like this for the past few weeks now. Their age and a lack of experience across many areas of the ground is showing, and with Lynch's absence, you could tell that young 𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐿𝐴 and Jonty Four, a few of those key forwards really struggled too. But surely with this Richmond team, given what they showed in the first half of the season, they're due for a game where they really get it together and they prove that connection going inside 50. So I think they're due for a decent game here. And look, against Essendon, I think they are building in a little way. The Dons are starting to blood a lot more younger players, and they're probably in the best position they've been in a little while, given that they've got 2 first-round picks and they can really attack next season, you'd think, with blooding a lot of young players now. But talking about now, this is definitely a winnable game for the Dons. They did beat them well last time out. Unfortunately, Caldwell and Zach Reid are both going under the knife, but at least Zach Merrett moved back in the midfield and probably was Essendon's best player in last week's loss. So with him back in there, I think they'll definitely steer them the right way in the guts. They were pretty good in the first half in the midfield battle against the Suns. Yeah, I just think in comparison to the 2 teams, the Dons are just looking like that better side of the minute. Side in better form with just how they're playing. And with the last 5 games being defeats, but a lot of gallant performances in there, I think they are due for a win against arguably a weaker opposition. So I'll go the Dons against the Tigers here. I think they'll be too good for them. And we'll go Essendon in this one by 22. Then the other Saturday night game, big one here, 8-point game you'd think for both sides. Fremantle take it on the Hawks at 𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐿𝐴 Stadium. The Dockers fell short against the Swans last week, but they were in a very winnable position to win the game. It was a real credit to them. They got on top in the clearances, or at least broke even in the second half. Shea Bolton had a big third term, and they did a lot right, but at fourth term, they just couldn't really execute well, and they left a few goals on the table. So a game they really could have run over the top of, but a chance to bounce back against the Hawks. This is a very tough test. Hawthorn, I think they're in that spot of, we talk about the premiership runway. Could they be that team that they just don't lose from here for the rest of the season? They do have some tough games coming up, I suppose, but yeah, since that slump they had, I think since the Dogs win now, they're yet to lose, and they're just playing some good footy. The morale's up, the spirits are up. They're just a really good ball-moving team, and in the wide ground of Optus, could that outdo the Dockers? They've been a bit hit and miss in the midfield this year, Fremantle. They've been gettable in the clearances. Sydney went to school on them in that first half, so it's an area for Hawthorn to try and exploit. Darcy back in, I think, makes them a better clearance team when he's the ruckman and Jackson, let's say, is the on-baller. The numbers show that they do win a lot more clearances when Darcy is the ruck. Could that loss now start a bit of a freefall for Fremantle? Look what happened last year, for example. My head sort of feels like I think Hawthorn probably gets them on the outside, but given this one's at home, I just think Fremantle could definitely bounce back here. And they have some fire on the bellies of dropping a close game against Sydney last week as well. Strong's due for a bit of a bounce back. They'll review with how they didn't really handle the tag well. And they've been a pretty tough team to beat at home this season too. So I think I'll go the Dockers in this one. I think the home, if this one was away in Victoria, I'd go the Hawks, but home field advantage is the big factor for me with the Dockers. And yeah, just think an emotional bounce back will be the case here. So I'll go with them over the Hawks and tip them in a close one by 9 points. For the Sunday games now, first up, the D's taking on North Melbourne at the MCG. Yeah, they've been an enigma, Melbourne, and I've always backed them a bit too many times with tipping videos. But look what happened. They only got within 2-3 goals of the Crows and were leading at half-time. And yeah, defensively, probably one of their better performances in that first half. Great off the intercept. As for the Kangas, couldn't get it done against the Dogs last week, but it was a good first half from them. They were breaking even in the midfield, and yeah, they just really caught out the Dogs through their quick transition play. Could that be an area where they catch out Melbourne? When North did beat the D's early in the season, it was through their inside game. They smashed them at clearances, and Sherry had an outstanding game against Max Gawn. But yeah, a lot has happened since then, and things have changed a wee bit. And still, sometimes when you watch North, just the basics, like coming out of the back half, they still have their unforced errors and missed hand passes, etc. And look, the D's aren't really too flashy themselves. So I'm feeling whoever can really get on top of this midfield will be a key area for this game. Who can have the more inside 50s and more of the field territory. A lot will be off who can win the midfield battle. I think North Melbourne can definitely win this game, but I'll just sway towards the D's here. Just go with a safe tip. It's hard to trust both these teams in the minute, but I did like what I saw of the D's. They were pretty close against one of the toughest teams to beat at Adelaide, especially at the Adelaide Oval of the Crows this season. So yeah, I think Melbourne will be a bit too good on the inside in a pretty scrappy game of footy. Go the D's by 14. Next Sunday game, we have the Saints taking on the Swans at Marvel Stadium. They are one of the more enigma teams in the competition and are probably due for a bit of a scalp and a bit of a win here. They've been close against some teams, and yeah, look, especially against Fremantle, they went to work on them. They were pretty good on the inside, and yeah, it's going to be an interesting battle because the Swans this year have been a lot better of a contested team if you look at the numbers, and they outdid Fremantle in the clearances as well. So yeah, I think it'll be an interesting battle to see who can win this midfield game. Since the Richmond game though, I think Sydney, with most of their players back, and especially Errol Gulden, looking like a lot more of a connected team with how they move it. Tom Papley unfortunately out again, and so is Joel Amani, so it's back to a bit of the key forward carousel for the Swannies. But look, at least players like Francis do compete fairly well, but still one of the weaker forward lines in the competition. And the Saints, I feel, usually play good footy against the Swans. Like whenever the Saints do play Sydney, it's usually cagey affairs, and the Saints are usually able to get the game on their terms as well. In comparison to last year, I don't think the Saints have been as good as a ball-moving team from the back half, and a few of their losses this season, it's a lot where they've had enough entries, I feel, to win the game, but yeah, just some inside 50 kicks not quite hitting targets and a few turnovers here and there. That's, I think, what's ultimately letting them down on the outside. And I think in comparison to both teams, I think Sydney showing a bit better connection with how they're moving the ball at the minute. And remember last year's game, the Saints were very good at moving the ball end-to-end against the Swans, and they were able to surge their way to an upset win. So that could be a way for St Kilda to get the win. But I'll back in Sydney here. I think they are travelling a bit better than the Saints in the minute, but look, these can always be hard games to tip with the Saints involved, but I'll back in the Swans in this one, and they'll win a close one by 12. Final game of the round, we do have Port Adelaide taking on the West Coast Eagles at the Adelaide Oval. Port Adelaide off the back of I thought, pretty gallant defeat against the Brisbane Lions. They were down to, I think, one on the bench, a few players going down, 𝐼𝐴𝐿𝐼, I think Josh Sin as well. But Lukosius, I thought, had a good game, and you can tell why Port Adelaide did want to recruit them. He's a lovely kick, but he can really now develop into that fine 1-2 punch alongside Jordan 40-yarders, who's just having an outstanding year. Back at the Adelaide Oval as well, the Eagles, away from home, they're always a bit questionable, but when they did play at the Adelaide Oval last time, they had a really good first quarter and a bit against the Crows from memory. They were really good in the contested, especially ground level game. They outdid them there, but yeah, from a four-quarter perspective, it's hard to back in the Eagles. But look, the last 6 weeks or so, they've been building and showing better patches here and there. Could they maybe catch out Port Adelaide with a bit of their ball movement? The effort needs to be a lot better for the Eagles if there are any chance, though. Just too many easy goals conceded against the Giants last week. Yeah, I think we all know who I'm going to be tipping here. Port Adelaide at home. It's hard to go against them and just can't really back in the Eagles from a tipping perspective, but I'm intrigued. Could they start well? Port Adelaide, I think it should be too strong, and we'll go Port Adelaide to win this one well by 35. So overall, there were my tips for round 18 of the 2025 AFL season. One of the rounds of the season, up and coming. 8 of the top 9 teams will play each other. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the ladder will behold at the end of this round. Let me know your tips down below in the comments. So you go for any upsets. Always love to hear your people's opinions. But that's it from me, everybody. Take care, and until next time, I'll talk to you later. See you later, fellas.